Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. We're going to do something different today. It's Veterans Day. So we came down here to the Cove, and we're going to meet a World War II veteran, Mike Brudnicki. We're at the home of his son, Mayor Greg Brudnicki. So we're going to go in and get a story of how it was during World War II. Folks, this is a fine man right here. How old are you?
I'll be 91 Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. Okay. I want you to tell the viewers about growing up in Chicago.
We had a nice house over there. My father just started building it. Well, we were in the final phases. He was hanging a door up in the basement where they used to have a cooler. He dropped off and left my mother with 7 small children from 16 down to 7. My mother couldn't even speak English. She spoke nothing but Polish, and that's what we learned also. When she was 12 years old, her mother passed away, and she became the mama for 3 small children. And her father was he was a tenant farmer on one of those. That's the way they used to be back then. Mm-hmm. But she did at 12 years old, she could cook and bake and sew and do what 90% of the women in this country can't do. When she was about 16, she got married. My dad, when he was 18 years old, and they lived in Russia yet, in this town, this small Vilnius, which is right on the border of Poland and Russia. It was compulsory military training at that time. And the Tsar was still the wheel over there. And so anyway, my dad, I don't know how long he was in here then, by then, but he got into the job as a Cossack, who are the guys, when they had, Russia at that time was all split up in different, like small villages and stuff like that. And a lot of them, they didn't like going being with the Tsar ruling them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there'd be a little uprising, and bang, they'd send the Cossacks in there on their horses and the sabers. And they cleaned the mess up in a hurry, and there was no more problems for a while. So that's what they learned. Yeah. And so, my dad was no slouch. Yeah. But he survived that 5 years. And then when he got back to Poland, not Poland, to the farm and stuff, that's when he was there. So his side of the family, they had a little bit of Yiddish. And they just came here on a visit, but he stayed. He didn't care about any of that stuff. He just liked it over here, and that life over there is rough. Yeah. So he did it. He managed to get things started and stuff over here, and they lived in Milwaukee for a while, and then they moved to Chicago, where there was more work than Milwaukee at the time. And that's where, after several years, he was a handyman with everything, and he knew a lot of people from his brother. And he started building his house. That's where he passed away in 1932. Not a very good, profitable year for anybody. Yeah. And my mother, I could tell you, I filled a book on how she supported us from that time. We lived in this area where there was what they call a roundhouse for the B&O and C&A Railroad. And that was back in Stickney, which is about 3/4 of a mile away from our house, but it was all prairies over there. And the firemen and the engineers, they used to bring their locomotive over to get repairs and stuff. So they didn't like to stay on the railroad yards with all that smoke and everything. So they were looking for a place to maybe stay for a day or two until the repairs were done. And that's where we just happened to, my mother made some connection with some ladies in there on the prairies out there. They would rent a room out. Nobody was making any money at that time. You know, you had to do anything to survive. So we started taking in, we had this house that had 4 bedrooms in it. And she found out what these women did. They'd rent a room out, like say for overnight or something. They got 50 or 75 cents. And then a lot of them there was no restaurants or anything around there for these guys. They were well-to-do. They were firemen and engineers at that time. So she'd get 50 cents a night or something like that for them to sleep. And she would start to make them breakfast and dinner. And so she said that sometimes it would be 2 days she didn't have her head on a pillow from working. And we survived with her being everything.
So did you go to school? That's when you went to school?
Yes, we had a school there. It was about a mile, the Mark Twain School. There was nothing but prairies there. There was no sidewalks, just dirt roads. And in the wintertime, we went to school, and it was about maybe 1.25 miles or something like that. I'd plow through that stuff and get to the school.
Tell us about, okay, then all through 1930, you went to school, and then the World War II?
Oh, well, that was the war.
Yeah.
And I managed to graduate from Harrison Tech High School in 1943. And that would have been in June. I signed up for the Marine Corps in December. I was still 17. So, but they didn't take me in until January because I turned 18 Christmas Day. And then I went from there to the boot camp and got out of there in about June, I think. Went overseas to Pearl Harbor, just when they hit the Marianas Islands, Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. And so we just barely got overseas, was in Pearl for about a couple of weeks, and bang, they put us on a boat, and we became replacements from the Guam campaign. And I was in on the mopping up at the end over there and stuff. That's a big island. It's 38 miles long and about 18 miles wide. And there was a lot of casualties even after then because they had to send out patrols and stuff. And after, and we were out there, we'd have to, a bunch would go every once in a while, they always kept some people to guard the villages so that the Japanese wouldn't go in and bother them or with food or anything. Those ones was scattered here and there. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, in January, we had to leave for Iwo Jima, which I didn't know until we got aboard ship. And that would be in about February, I think it was. You know, we left in about, the latter part of January maybe. And in February, there were two other Marine divisions that were hooked up with that, the 5th and the 4th, I think. And they had it so bad there the first couple of days, we were only supposed to be reserves. We went in about the 4th day, and two of the regiments from the 3rd Division, they went in, they kept one more for reserve. But the 3rd Regiment never had a land. We took a lot of casualties, I mean, right away. Okay. It's such a small island.
All right, let's take a break and we'll be right back.
All I know is they had 2 divisions on there, and they got beat up so bad in the first couple of days. By the time we went about the 4th day or something like that, 2 regiments out of the 3rd Division, one stayed in reserve, the 3rd, I think, the 21st and the 9th, went in, and I was a mortarman, 60 millimeter mortarman. And the first day we kind of stayed in back, and then the next day started to go up through the middle on the 1st airfield. And that's where really the damage was done on the 1st and the 2nd. Well, the whole island was only 8 square miles. And they found, after stuff was cleaned up over, there was several miles of tunnels that they had over there. They were like mice in there. And you'd never know until you stuck your nose right in somewhere where the firing was coming from. Mm. And that's the truth. Mm. I was in inches of being killed many times. And the campaign was supposed to take 3 days. I didn't get off of that island until the 8th. I landed there in February, towards the end of February, and I didn't get off of there until the 8th of April. There was a month and a half, and anything could happen in that time because of the smallness of it, you know what I mean? This congestion and...
Yeah. How many men went with you on the island?
The dead ones?
No, yeah. How many ended up dead?
How many in my company, I think there was 23 came back out of 200 and some.
Wow.
And there was only 3 riflemen out of 3 platoons, about 8 machine gunners, and about 8 mortarmen out of 18. And there was not too many machine gunners out of 60. Ooh. So I got mail after I got back to Guam, evacuated, destination unknown. And so it's a mixed-up mess, really. This one morning, a corpsman was in a hole with us there while they were laying down a barrage. And I was making some breakfast up. What kind of breakfast? You got a can with some heat tabs in there, mm-hmm. and take a little water and a little dry cereal and mix it up in there, and anything. They tried to take care of us as much as they could, but it was impossible. I was never hungry and never thirsty, but the food was nothing. Yeah. They do everything they can, and with those circumstances, it's impossible.
Okay.
Yeah. So after a while, everything just seems like, you don't hardly pay any attention. So you see some guy with his head laying on his shoulders, I mean, laying down there on his chest, or all different crazy ways, the way some people get killed, and you can, like you see a guy one day and where's so-and-so, and maybe it's with some friend of yours or something. Oh yeah, he's gone. Yeah, that's it, just like that. Mm.
What about, though, when that was over, what happened then? When it was over, what was next?
Well, we got back to, they still had problems after we left, but like I said, they had miles of tunnels and stuff, so you could be right on top of something. I walked in areas that, like we had a perimeter, and there'd be old bunkers and stuff in there, and I went in one of the bunkers, and they were supposed to be cleaned out. I saw a shadow in there, just like that. And so I backed out and I told them in Japanese, Kohei, come out of there. Wouldn't come out. So I awoke them with a grenade. And the way they got them built, they were no dumb. These Japanese are very, very intelligent people, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. Went back there, and after I threw it in, I went back in there. Guy took a shot at me. It seemed to me like it was right next to my ear almost, and he missed. I figured, well, I guess we got to do something about him. We got a guy with flamethrower and a Bangalore torpedo. You know what that is? About 4 feet of pipe loaded with TNT and a fuse on it. Shoved that down there. That didn't get him. They had them built in there, with curves and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. These guys are mechanics. They had a lot of time to prepare that island. Mm. I mean, they must have had what they call, I was in the mortars. And if you were someplace and you want to figure, well, if you knew like them, they could take and make a chart or something like that on a certain azimuth, and bang, they could take and they know exactly how far it is over here, over here, over here, any place around their gun. Oh, he's in so-and-so, bing. And they drop it in right on you. If you got that kind of information, it's like, a telescope or something like that. Yeah. Right on it. And then you'd be using 90 millimeter mortar shells and stuff like that. Mm. I had 4 guys, we were in a hole, and they were just setting up a gun. I had a squad leader and myself and the gunner and the assistant. And all of a sudden, here comes a shell. All I could see was black and stuff like that. All from the smoke and the 3 guys I wounded, I didn't get a scratch. Just like that. Wow. That's only one time, I'm telling you. There's all kinds of incidents where there were something, you'd see something, a hunk of shrapnel will land on you or something. Still smoking, and everything like that. Wow. You look out over, I climb out of a hole and I'd be looking over a parapet or something like that, and there'd be almost like a moving picture. And you see guys running around, and you see that shell fire keep coming in over there, and the tanks maneuvering, and I'm talking about just like a movie screen. Wow. You didn't enjoy it, but it was better it was down there and not there.
Well, when the war ended, you came back home?
No, when the war ended, we went back to Guam. Okay. And stayed there. We went back to Guam, probably was back there, and we left the island over there in March. And went aboard ship and went back to Guam. And that would probably be in March, in April. No, the end of March. And then by about June, we started preparing for the invasion of Japan. And I would be, all I had as a sidearm was a .45, and be the gunner. And but then August come around, and I was out looking for something to eat from from a CB camp. They ate good. They had a lot better food than what we had. And I heard on the radio that a bomb was dropped on Japan. There was equivalent to about 2,000, I don't know, or 20,000 pounds of TNT or something like that. Right. And I came back with the story to camp, and I was always full of bull. So they thought I was lying. But no, then later on, some other guys came back, because we used to go run around on a Sunday if you get away from the camp and go get something good to eat somewhere. And then the other news come back, and then so there we knew something was happening. Then we got word that they gave up. And that was it.
Wow, what a story. I want to thank Greg Brudnicki for hosting that, and most of all, I want to thank Mike Brudnicki for being the star of the show. Well, what a great story. And also, we're going to take time now to just thank all of our veterans on today of Veterans Day. There's so many of you out there, especially in this area we live in now. I'm standing in front of a wall that honors our soldiers who've lost their life in World War II and the Korean War, and I just counted 91 names of men here in this area right here in Panama City that lost their lives in World War II. And what a sacrifice they've given and their families have given, and all in the cause of freedom for America. And it's so important to us. So we want to thank all of our veterans and all of the branches of the armed services, and we appreciate the service and the sacrifices you have made. For my family's sacrificed. We've lost family members over the years in battles and all, and we just want to thank you, and even today as you're sacrificing your time at Tyndall or wherever and overseas, we just appreciate it. So now we've got a big fishing show Monday, so we're going to take Mike Brudnicki fishing, so tune in on that and have a great and happy Veterans Day.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.